Welcome back. This is part 23, and it's the one where we lift our heads up from the build and look at the horizon. AskMyDocs is running, the stack is yours, and that means we can finally have an honest conversation about what comes next. Cloud APIs for the genuinely hard problems, fine-tuning when your domain demands it, agents that actually do things, and the MCP ecosystem tying it all together. The frame for this whole episode is simple. Local AI is the foundation, not a fortress. So before we talk about reaching outward, let's be honest about what already works locally, because it's more than people give it credit for. Document Q&A over your own files with a tuned RAG pipeline, and Llama 3.91.8b handles roughly 95% of "what does this contract say?" questions. The cloud genuinely adds nothing. Same story for drafting in your own voice, code completion with Continue or Aider, and the unglamorous workhorses, classifiers, extractors, ticket routers. For all four, a local 7 or 8 billion parameter model is cheaper, faster, and private. Don't escalate what's already solved. Now the flip side, 4 places where calling out to Anthropic or OpenAI isn't a failure, it's just the right tool. Hard multi-step reasoning and serious math, GPT-4o and Sonnet with extended thinking are still meaningfully ahead of anything you can run locally, even at 70 billion parameters. Frontier knowledge, anything that happened this month, your local cutoff can't help you, so Cloud plus Web Search wins. Long context past 32,000 tokens, and serious multimodal work on video or complex diagrams, escalate without guilt. So instead of picking a side, route at the function level. One ask function, 2 clients, both speaking the OpenAI protocol thanks to Llama's compatibility layer from part 19. The decision is 3 cheap checks, context too long, needs fresh data, or the question looks hard. Everything else stays on Llama 3.018b running locally. In practice, you end up with around 90% local, 10% escalated, and roughly a tenth the cost of going cloud only, without giving up the hard cases. That routing logic generalizes into a simple decision matrix. Go local when privacy, stable cost, or offline operation matter. Document Q&A, drafts, code completion, the bulk of internal tools. Go hybrid for most real production apps, where difficulty varies and you want a smart router with caching and fallback. Reach for cloud when you genuinely need frontier reasoning, 200K context, or deep multimodal, low volume, high value. Stop arguing tribally. Most teams need all 3 at once. Once you've exhausted prompts, RAG, and few-shot examples, then, and only then, consider fine-tuning. It's the right tool for a narrow style. Legal phrasing, strict JSON output, your brand's voice. It's the wrong tool for teaching new facts or making a small model smarter. RAG owns the first, and no amount of LoRA turns an 8B into GPT-4. Practically, it's a 4090 rental for 10 or 20 bucks, an overnight run with Unsloth or axolotl, and an adapter you load through an Alma model file. The real cost isn't compute, it's curating 1,000 clean examples. Agents are the next step up from tool calling, and the core idea is genuinely simple. It's a loop. The model thinks, calls a tool, observes the result, and thinks again, until it decides it's done or you hit a step limit. 15 lines of Python gets you a working agent against your local Llama. No framework required. LangGraph, CrewAI, and Smolagents are useful once you need retrees, branching, or persistent memory, but write the loop yourself first so you actually know what those frameworks are doing. So when do you actually reach for a framework? LangGraph earns its keep when you have real branching, conditional routing, retrees, loops that need to be inspectable. CrewAI fits content pipelines where role-based agents map cleanly to the work. Smolagents is more of a runtime than a framework. Agents write Python, it executes it sandboxed, great for data tasks. AutoGen handles agents talking to each other, which is powerful, but expect production surprises. And honestly, the 15-line loop plus Pydantic for schemas and tenacity for retries covers more cases than people admit. Speaking of standardization, MCP is worth a serious look. Anthropic's Model Context Protocol gives you 3 primitives: tools the model can call, resources it can read, and prompts users invoke by name. The host decides what's exposed, so models don't get unscoped access to your world. The practical payoff: wrap AskMyDocs as an MCP server once, and Claude Desktop, Cursor, VS Code, anything MCP aware, can query your docs. Same backend, more surfaces, no per-client glue code. Now let's talk money. At 10,000 requests a day, your Llama 3.18b on a 3090 costs about $15 a month. That's just electricity. The same workload on GPT-4o runs around 1,500, Claude Sonnet about 1,200. The interesting row is the hybrid. Local first with maybe 10% escalated to cloud lands around $165 a month. And that's where most real production setups end up. And if you fine-tune an 8B on your own data, $30. One time often beats the frontier models on your specific domain. So with the economics in mind, here are 4 evening-sized projects to push your stack further. Drop in a smart router so easy questions stay local and hard ones escalate. Log the rate for a week and tune the heuristic. Wrap AskMyDocs as an MCP server and suddenly Claude Desktop can query your own docs. If you've got the VRM, benchmark a 70B against your tuned 8B and see if it actually earns the extra weight. And finally, fine-tune a tiny LoRA on one narrow style. 200 examples is often enough to beat prompt engineering on consistency. Now the flip side, what to actively ignore. Don't swap models every Tuesday because someone topped a leaderboard. Pin your stack and reevaluate quarterly against your own test set. Don't bolt on a second agent until the first one provably can't cope, and don't write your own inference runtime when Allama VLLM and TGI already solved it. Skip the dream of distilling your own mini-GPT. You don't have the data, and a fine-tuned 8B with good RAG will eat it for breakfast. And forget MMLU. The only benchmark that matters is 50 examples from your actual use case. With the noise filtered out, the question becomes where to actually point your effort. There are 3 honest paths, and the trap is trying to walk all of them. Builder is where most of you should land. Ship products on top of LLMs, get better at RAG, evals, and UX, and put more AskMyDocs-style tools into the world. Infra is for the people who want to live inside VLLM and llama.cpp, master quantization and GPU economics, and become the one team's call when inference needs to be cheap and fast. Research is the long road, papers weekly, reproducing results, pre-training and alignment. Huge payoff if it genuinely fits you. Pick one, 6 months deep beats, 6 weeks scattered across all 3. So before we close out, let's collapse this whole part into 5 things worth remembering. Local is your foundation. It handles roughly 95% of real work, and the skill is recognizing what doesn't need to escalate. Cloud isn't failure. It's the right call for hard reasoning, fresh facts, and long multimodal context, and a smart router lets both speak OpenAI. Fine-tune late and narrow, for style and jargon, never to inject facts. Start with a 15-line agent loop before reaching for frameworks, and evaluate on your data, not someone else's leaderboard. And here's the same thinking compressed into a cheat sheet worth screenshotting. 12 rules of thumb covering the whole decision space: where to keep workloads local, when to escalate, how to route, what fine-tuning is actually for, and the cheap experiments that beat any leaderboard. The pairs on the right are the guardrails. Don't fine-tune for facts, don't reach for LangGraph before you've written the loop yourself, and don't trust any eval that isn't built from your own use case. So here we are, 23 parts down, 1 to go. The last one isn't about another tool or another benchmark. It's about what you actually take with you, the way of thinking, the community you plug into, where to spend your next 1,000 hours, and what to tell the next person walking this path. Let's land it well.